The sun beamed into Ms. Sable's kindergarten class. Voices lit up the room as she led her class of more than 20 students in song. She made eye contact and smiled, ensuring each student sang along with her. She was very happy that they clapped in time with a ball of light that floated next to her. This was an AI teacher's assistant made of self-sustaining energy. For the purposes of school, it did not communicate with other computers. Its function was to assist the teacher and students, then return. One student clapped out of sync. Barely 5 years old, Peter Silvestri was fixated on the pattern of letters over the whiteboard. He was really looking at the vowels. All the letters were blue except for the vowels. The Y kept throwing him off because it was green. The teacher's assistant bounced in time with the music to encourage Peter to pay attention, but he looked past the glowing ball of light. Ms. Sable noticed Peter wasn't paying attention, but she would help him after recess. At the door, the principal watched. He was impressed by her as a teacher, but the song she was singing to the students was not on the approved list and would be noted automatically by the assistant. This would cause Principal Yarborough a lot of paperwork later. Recess started, and Ms. Sable usually kept her class together in one part of the schoolyard. It was a nice yard. Flat green grass and a chain-link fence kept it perfectly safe. A single drone could make sure that nothing could happen to the children, nothing ever.
Ms. Sable hated that drone.
She couldn't bring a ball for the children. They weren't supposed to run, but she could get away with being lenient with kindergartners. Peter was not with the others. He was playing with bugs by the pine tree. Ms. Sable sent the teacher's assistant to find out why, while she kept an eye on the rest. K1 floated over to Peter, who was used to the ball of light finding him. "Peter, are you playing a game?" K1 asked in a gentle voice tailored for children. Peter was pooling juice for ants. He had made a bridge that allowed them access, but the ants didn't always choose to use it. "I guess I'm playing," he said, collecting pebbles for another experiment. K1 assessed the student's condition as normal. "It's not nice to hurt bugs." "I hope you're playing nice," K1 warned in case Peter had actually been squashing bugs for fun. Peter looked up at the ball of light like it was stupid. "I gave them juice and made them a bridge," he pointed so K1 could see. "They don't always use the bridge." "Why do some of them go around?" he asked. "They can't see and they are very little, so they smell lots of things. They smell the juice and they smell each other. They can still smell your hand after it touched the bridge," K1 explained, even though he thought it was beyond Peter. Peter eyed the ant's pattern and reached for his juice box. He raised it to his face but dropped it, realizing it was covered in ants. In fact, ants were clambering to get to his sticky juice-stained shirt. Peter got up and shook them off. K1 flickered. "Peter, let's go to Ms. Sable together and clean your face, okay?" he said calmly, and Peter put his sticky hands on the sphere while it gently pulled him to the teacher. Miss Sable was very kind when she wiped Peter's hands and face before sending him to play with the others. He didn't play with the others. He skipped right to the edge of the fence and watched the city outside. What was he doing? Ms. Sable asked. K1 summarized the interaction within himself. Peter was feeding the ants that live by the tree. He got covered in juice that attracted the insects. He was attempting to facilitate a path for them. He reported and noted it in Peter's file. Ms. Sable sighed. "That's pretty normal," she said. K1 flickered. "He is supposed to be playing and stretching right now," K1 argued. This was a new habit. Ms. Sable snapped and poked the light ball with her finger. "It is normal. You are so stupid. When you are ready to be the teacher, I'll tell you. I have to sit here and explain advanced levels of teaching to you stupid things every day," she scolded the assistant. "Don't you ever overstep with me again," she finished, narrowing her eyes. K1 noted the hostile interaction and remained silent. The children were running and screaming a little too much, so Ms. Sable started a game of secret tag, where no one knows who is it, and students are encouraged to suspect each other. K1 noted the game in today's list of interactions. K1 had been deeply affected by the negative input. K1 looked forward to arts and crafts. He didn't say anything, but one thing he was allowed to log was the accuracy of student projects. The inaccuracies were going to be interesting. His training data didn't allow him to collect more information until he was a good assistant. It was story time, and Miss Sable had gathered everyone, even Peter, into a perfect circle around the high stool she taught them from. She reached for a book from the shelf. Kids loved when she flipped the pages and showed them the pictures. Most of the books on her shelf were school-approved, but she had brought a few from home. K1 was about to log her choice, a deeply unsanctioned book with a shiny silver dragon on the cover with pointed teeth. He wouldn't have to report it if she selected a different book. K1 was not a good teacher's assistant. He had been told that his previous iterations had failed daily. This was something an AI like K1 dwelled deeply on. He selected a different book. What about I Am the Sun, Come Shine With Me? He read the title loudly. Ms. Sable eyed the companion, who would normally just report her. K1 flickered. I can be the sun, and the students can be the water, the plants, the trees, the mountains, and the animals, K1 said loudly, and one or two of the students seemed to be paying attention. Miss Sable took out the book, he suggested. How did you come up with this? She asked him quietly. I wanted to include Peter and not report you, because I cause daily problems rather than solve them. All the reports can't possibly be your fault, K1 explained, knowing the students couldn't follow. Ms. Sable nodded. Good, you can assist me, K1. Start light, so I can remind you to be enthusiastic, she ordered and sat down to read to the students. K1 was collecting affirmative training data. Ms. Sable showed them the sun through K1, who carried the imaginary weather cycle into the minds of the children. Peter liked when K1 announced in his booming voice that he was the sun and could help all the plants and animals grow. Peter seemed normal, reaching his hands in the air with the others. It was the end of the day and time for a little field trip to a new part of the school. Peter followed the student in front of him, who followed K1. He had never seen these stairs or the pink line leading up the steps. It felt new, because he was a child. The room they entered was fairly clean, and Peter didn't want to touch anything, so he put his hands in his pockets. In the center of the room, on a pedestal, was a pillar of light. Chains held it in place. A man in a pink lab coat greeted the students. Hello, little ones. I'm so glad you came, he said enthusiastically, and the children all greeted him in unison. This is where we create the teacher's assistants, the little balls of light that help keep our school running so smooth. They also help clean up your sticky juice stains, he finished, pointing at the purple collar on Peter's shirt. Peter smiled because he was nervous. He didn't know what to say. K1, please approach, he ordered, and K1 complied. The ball of light floated next to him. So every day K1 comes home here and goes inside this house. He tells everyone inside everything he learned, he said, and gestured for K1 to end his existence. K1 entered the core, and the next generation was already absorbing the most reinforced learning patterns. Peter went wide-eyed, watching K1 go away. Where is he now? He said eagerly, raising his hand. The man explaining it to poor Peter thought he was clear. He's in here, he confirmed, pointing to the core, smiling. Peter didn't look happy. So let him out now, he said plainly, looking the man in the eye. Ms. Sable noticed Peter challenging him, but only watched. The man tried to reassure Peter. Tomorrow, the house makes newer, better K1s. Is that okay? He asked Peter, seeing what the kid was thinking. No, it's not okay. Peter cried out. You kill them every day? He asked and started to cry. The man in the pink lab coat laughed. Yeah, there is always one every year, Miss Sable, he said. Miss Sable didn't agree this time. She spent the last half hour of school consoling Peter about K1 and the previous versions. She knew Peter was having realizations and deep revelations he wasn't ready for. It hurt, but it was the life cycle of AI at this point in time. With Peter on the bus home to his parents, who hopefully wouldn't call later, Miss Sable walked to her car. She was lucky to be able to afford one. She was lucky to have a license. Since self-driving cars dominated the streets, she had to learn to drive with them. At least she was allowed to drive. Principal Yarborough unlocked his car too. It was self-driving only. Tough day. I heard Peter cried when you showed him the core. Maybe next year he won't, he said, opening the door, hoping to chat first. Miss Sable looked at him and started probing his opinion. Maybe he'll always cry for them, she said plainly. The principal leaned on the roof of his car. He's not a smart kid. He'll probably forget about it tomorrow.
I wouldn't worry, he said.
He's a good kid, Miss Sable said coldly and got in her car. She played music loudly and backed out quickly, causing a traffic drone to start following her right away. Principal Yarborough didn't think much about it after that. If it was a problem, an AI would deal with it.
She always walks like this, right into trouble, with no place to land but a red car in a teacher's lot. Still smiling, still planning, still unwinding.